My name is Manu Rakwan. I am the President of the Natural Sciences Council, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all this evening. The Natural Sciences Council is the representative organization of our college, and first and foremost, our duty is to represent the needs and interests of all our students. Before I introduce our host for the evening, I would just like to say to please refrain from using laptops and cell phones and other electronic devices out of respect for our speakers and for other members of the audience. So having said that, I will now hand it over to our academic affairs chair, Ali Al-Nani.
Thank you, Juan. Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for coming out to Town Hall this evening. Town Hall is an event hosted by the Natural Sciences Council every semester. The purpose of this event is to bring the leadership of our college directly to you, the students, in your own form. It's an avenue for you, as the active bodies of our college, to come in and ask why things are the way they are. Our goal as a college and as a university is to push forward, to improve, and to change the world. So, please consider yourselves as parents of our college, nurturing and caring for it as it grows, and also being stern and passionate for it when it falters. In this forum, please feel free to bring up any issues, concerns, or suggestions for improvement you as a student may have for the College of Natural Sciences. Our deans and directors consistently make time in their schedules to attend this meeting every semester. I think this speaks not only to their passion as ambassadors of the college, but also to your importance as students. Your voices hold great power and weight, just as every vote in a small democracy holds the power to change its surroundings. As Academic Affairs Chair of NSC, I know this very well. And I urge you to keep it in mind, even after this town hall session is ended. Keep it in mind as you are walking to class. Keep it in mind as you are registering. Keep it in mind as you are applying for internships in grad school. Know what needs to be improved, and feel free to bring it to the next town hall, or directly to me or council. With that said, I'd like to introduce our panel. On our panel today, we have Dr. Monday, Dean of the College of Natural Sciences. We have Dr. Sasha Gall, Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education. We have Dr. Ruth Franks, the Interim Dean with the Career Design. We have Leslie Riley, the Director of the Health Professor's Office. We have Dr. Sarah Simmons, the Assistant Dean for Honors, Research, and International Studies. At this time, I'd like to give Dr. Kopp a chance to give us a short address on the current status of our college.
Actually, I'll be really brief. I just wanted to make sure that we have lots of time for discussion. This has been a really busy semester, and it feels like a whirlwind for all of us in the college. It probably does for you as well. We've had lots of discussions in the college about a new degree proposal, and some of you were here a couple weeks ago to discuss that. This is about the time when many of you are registering for classes for next year. I'm sure we'll have lots of conversations around that. And this is also about the time when we as faculty are starting to really plan around a lot of the courses that we want to be offering in the future around labs, experiential learning, internship credits. And so I'm actually not going to say a whole lot. I want to basically make sure we have lots of time for questions, but I imagine because of the whirlwind of the semester we've had this semester, we all have a lot of questions to talk about.
Okay. Very quickly, I want to remind everyone that we're going to end questioning promptly at 5:55 p.m. and I'll end questions at that point. Right now, if you just raise your hands to start, I'll choose the first person to ask a question, and after that, the dean will take over and answer a question.
With the new policy of UT making entirely tobacco-free, how are we working to enforce that on campus?
I haven't seen anybody smoking recently. But if it needs enforcement somewhere, let us know. I actually don't have any idea. So have you all seen that there are problems around natural sciences buildings or problems with student awareness, faculty or staff awareness?
jumping off that, like specifically, I think it's like the tree behind the food.
Yeah.
Like a bonfire. Like, but the actual question I had was, if the fall break proposal does go through, do you think there'll be any issues in how lab schedules are maintained? Or do you think the elimination of the week will have any big impacts? Do you think we'll be able to smooth it over?
Well, I'm not sure what the status of the fall break proposal is. I believe it's going back to faculty council, where it has to get decided on some way or reshaped. I think what was the last thing I heard was going to be happening. There wasn't a successful vote in the overall faculty meeting to allow that proposal to go forward. So I've heard discussions about alternate proposals that would address some of the faculty concerns. I've heard it possible that we might see that proposal come back again. So I'm imagining that the group that was the lead study group on the fall break proposal is going to come back to the colleges and start asking questions about what can we do better or how can we change it. Because I know there were at least 3 or 4 different fall break proposals out there at one time or another. The 2 big ones, the latest one to be considered. That would not be for this fall. This is a fall of 2014 at the soonest. And you know, I know some of the faculty concerns were around lab courses. Some of the faculty concerns were around a partial week. I'm just thinking of hallway conversations that we have an OU week that gets kind of chipped into. We have a Thanksgiving week that gets chipped into, and we would have potentially a fall break week that gets chipped into. And with those partial weeks, faculty kind of feel like they lose out on some days of instruction beyond the days of the actual vacation days. So I've heard people talk about, could we have a week-long break? And I don't know what the constraints are there, but maybe you've all heard other options.
So part of the constraint around lab courses is that the way they're currently set up, that first week is primarily lecture introduction, and then the lab courses run Monday through Friday, and we have very fancy lab courses in this college. And then that allows the staff to take down a new week's lab over the weekend or on Friday rather than in the middle of the week. So many schools have a fall break that allows for a sort of Wednesday to Tuesday lab course schedule, but that requires takedown and setup midweek, which is very difficult in our high capacity lab. So I think that there's going to have to be some, if a fall break goes through, some creativity with regard to either the number of labs to keep it in a Monday through Friday, so we lose the fall break week and we lose the 12 week, or shifting to a session where maybe we have Wednesday through Tuesday morning and then Tuesday afternoons set up takedown. So it will require change, but I think that just an adoption as is really possible.
I actually heard a student concern that I want to bring to faculty council or just make the proponents aware of, which I hadn't appreciated before, but you have the 4th class day is your limit for which you can make last-minute adjustments to your schedule. And in the current start of this fall semester, you have 3 days, and then you have the weekend to say, how'd that week feel? So you have a little bit of a breather before you're locked in. And with the proposal that was about to be, or that was voted on, that 4th class day would be in the middle of that first whirlwind week, and you wouldn't have a chance to reevaluate or rethink anything. So, again, I don't have a determinative, like, one must do it this way or the other way, but I do want to kind of share that, because I think from a student perspective, that 4th class day is an important milestone to keep track of.
How will the budget cuts affect undergraduate research programs such as the FRI program?
Budget cuts?
Well, there was rumored to be budget cuts. I'm not sure.
They were rumors.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Because I heard that there was, after the Bill Gates talk, there was talk about creating another FRI program.
Yeah, so what happened, that was a great, actually, story. We wanted to give Bill Gates something as a thank you or a memento for, giving us all this money for the building. And so a couple of folks in the dean's office had a fantastic idea. Bill Gates and Bill and Melinda Gates probably have everything in the world and they've given it. So why don't we give them an FRI stream? So one of our donors actually donated one FRI stream for 3 years in do-it-yourself diagnostics.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Speaking of
fast as possible. One of the reasons FRI has sort of traditionally run, doesn't work for transfer students, is that the credits are aligned. Most of them come in with freshman lab credit already. And so it's not about the credit anymore, it's about getting them up to speed and engaged in something as fast as possible. So that is a concern, and I think we hope to have capacity grow in that area.
So also with the question with the FRI program. So with the influx of 8,000 students in my graduating class and then expecting 7,000 students for the next graduating class, how will FRI accommodate for the large influx of students? Because I know personally in my research stream, we went from 20 students to 70 students. So
It must be in virtual classroom. So I don't know if you would like to talk about grant plan. Every year we've added 150 or 200 seats at FRI and had 150 or 200 students wait. So we've grown with it as we try to move this scale. There's a lot of support from VP and Dr. Cobb really speak to the mission of the program, which is to allow students who are interested in research to try research as quickly as possible. So we can't go from what we are now even to all the students who want it overnight. But every year we're trying to accommodate that influx from the special situation that we found ourselves in this year was the unexpected record large class and some expansion in programs that feed into FRI that to handle those classes. That class of TIP grew, with the natural sciences grew, emerging scholars grew, and FRI research methods grew. And then what we found was that we had more students than streams, given that all of those programs just grew by a little. They each grew by 15, 20. And so we had some emergency. Every stream is at or above capacity, and virtual growth training doubled. So I love your feedback on how, that's not something that we're going to do in the future as some standard practice, but so far it seems to be pretty well.
yeah, for my stream personally, it's working pretty efficiently. I feel like we're one of the streams that are unique though in our capability because half of our content is on
Yes,
We have a little bit of a running start this coming year. Actually, we've had a really positive influence. Dean Hickey has really challenged us to see FRI grow to the level that students would like to pursue it. Also, David Lottie in the Provost's office has been asking the colleges to offer more small learning communities like FRI or like the KIT program. And so we've been planning all year about how will we get more freshmen in next year's class involved in those kind of communities. So I'm not sure we have all the details worked out yet, but we are thinking toward more capacity in all of these kinds of programs because what we hear is that that's really what makes for a good freshman year.
To put it in perspective just a little bit, we started this program with 45 students and wrote 2 grants. We're like, maybe in 5 years we'll have like 500. But it was crazy big. And we're closer to 800 this year. And so we have far exceeded our wildest dreams. And we're still sort of
On the same note as having all freshmen in some kind of either TIP or biology scholarship program, is that for natural science college, specifically having everyone being one of those, obviously mentoring extends to what you were talking about, how it's expanding.
Every college is responding to this challenge differently,
Okay.
but I do know that all colleges are working on it.
Having every freshman involved.
Having every freshman involved in some form of small learning community. I can tell you a little bit about what we're planning because we've been working on that. FRI will grow by a couple more streams for next fall, or at least that's our intention. We are planning an expansion of the number of things that we will do. We had a couple of pilot initiatives last year done by some of the departments. Physics and computer science had faculty-led FIG-like things. So they will, I don't know what to call them. I guess I can call them FIGs, faculty, anyway. So they plan to grow with computer science in particular wants to take theirs all the way to 300 students by themselves. And TIP will grow. It is planned to double the number of natural sciences students in TIP. pilot that we launched last year for the Career Services Office that we'll try once more this coming semester. So we don't know the size of the next freshman class, but if it's around 2,000, then we think that all freshmen will be in something, some form, small way.
So, sorry. Going back to that about overall, why is some labs where your performance is based solely on your own performance in the class and do you based on like a chemistry lab? Or and another lab just like organic chemistry lab was based on everyone else? And then why is it the different grading on NSC?
The virus and course grading on the curve.
Yeah.
Well, I think every faculty member has, some ideas about what the right way to do grading is. Some do absolute scales, some do curves.
So is it just their personal preference?
Sometimes
Well, I think
it
as long
depends
as-
on the size of the class.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a small class in a small sample, then grading on a curve doesn't make as much sense because, you don't have a large enough sample size to have a curve. So some of it is class size. Some of it is individual faculty. How do they feel the material they're teaching is best assessed?
What we try to strive for in the dean's office is that every faculty member is very clear and transparent about what the grading process will be. So, where I've seen issues, I've tried to work with the faculty on how they can improve. Here's clarity. This is how the students will be able to evaluate where they stand. Because I think all of you, deserve that. But there's a variety of, an A in some classes is 80%, and an A in other classes is 90%. Why? Because, well, that's what the faculty member set as a goal for that class. They felt that was the correct goal. So I think there's a lot that's left to the faculty members as long as they can be clear about what the expectations are.
Yeah. So it's great that there's all these new opportunities for freshmen. But what about the students that are already in the college that don't have these small communities? What's being done to cater to them so that they can find these communities and help them just get connections and get further themselves as a student in college?
There we're really open to ideas. We focus on freshmen a lot because that's where people are really in a very transformative moment. They're trying to figure out what a major is all about. And when it gets to sophomore and junior year, I think people have started to diverge pretty significantly. And so, we certainly look for feedback. Freshman Research Initiative certainly continues on into sophomore year. And I think that's helpful for a lot of folks. Some people are starting to find their own path to a research lab with a faculty member. And so they've got that figured out. One thing I'd like to be working on in the year ahead is a sort of junior level careers course, because I think that's about the point where the rubber really beats the road and you start to say, you know what, I thought I was going to do this, I'm not sure. I'd really like to know what my options are. And so we had this CNS 101 course that we did for freshmen this last year. I'd like to see the junior level version of that, where we have a lot of opportunity for you to get experience about different career opportunities and how that matches with the degree. But if you have other ideas about what should be the support mechanisms for juniors, I'm really eager to hear your ideas.
Question, are you talking about, freshman year, you're creating communities for students because they're coming sort of as orphans and brand new. By the time students are sophomores or juniors, they're going to identify their own interests. Is your concern that students haven't found the connection to resources that they want? Do we do a better job of publicizing things like the Career Design Center or student groups or intramural sports or?
I guess from my own perspective, I was one that I transferred into Dean Scholars. So I was one, like the lucky 2 or 3 that was admitted over the summer. So I guess I found a community, but using that as an example, there's only 2 or 3 were admitted. So there's only 2 or 3 are finding like a community that can kind of persist with them throughout their entire college career. So I guess I was more like, you got the like FIGs and things like that, like communities like that where they can just kind of integrate and find like a niche that will carry through.
I think the crux of that problem, and if you can help us, is this, we take FIGs and we form them. Those are put strangers in a room together. And the FIG gets its own identity. Dean Scholars, things like that are a little bit different. But how do you do that with, do you send an email that says, okay, if you still feel like you're an orphan, you come. So how to attract the students that are lost to something? That's very difficult.
I was wondering, does the Department of Natural Sciences or the Health Professions Office have any plans for helping UMEDs adapt to the new MCAT format?
Yes, and we've actually just recently updated the advising aid website and the bench facility has some special notes about the 2015 MCAT. I know a lot of students are concerned about, do I try to cram and prepare to say the last version, the whole version in the January exam, we'll go ahead and prepare for the March moving on. Most of the new sections are including social and cultural, behavioral kinds of issues, especially related to health. And so, you know, if you looked at anything on the AAMC website, you'll see that common courses they're suggesting are like an intro to psychology and intro to sociology kind of class. And some of the students are going to discover, like looking at the sample questions and getting an idea from that, because it's not really coming from one particular type of course. And those two can be helpful, but you still may not have the content if you're not looking at the practice exams or they actually get simple questions. There's also an ethics component to it, which most students have gone through that, especially related to the FI and the review and ethics component to that. So those are most of the kind of ways, and we're doing individual advising with students as they're coming in and seeing what courses they've already taken and how you know, and then decide courses going forward.
I'd like to trumpet something else that Leslie Riley has done, which is in conjunction with our Bachelor of Science and Arts degree, we've been planning for a number of certificate options. And Leslie came up with an idea for a pre-health education certificate that would kind of match the needs of lots of different types of students across the university. So for students in liberal arts, they might fill out their pre-health education certificate with organic chemistry and physics and what have you. But for students in natural sciences, they might take some sociology and psychology and I forget, you had a very long list of courses that would help specifically for those competencies on the MCAT. If you filled out that certificate, you would probably feel in pretty good shape.
Absolutely. You know, actually, a lot of them come from inside of the College of Natural Sciences, and development, and science, nutrition, courses like that. Many of those have sort of a cultural context or a population working with a group as opposed to an individual. And so those courses are really well.
Yes, in fact.
How difficult would it be to complete the BSA degree in 3 years?
It will really depend on what you come in with for transfer or AP credits. It's not intended to be an expedited degree per se, so I don't know that it's any easier. Well, it might be a little easier than our Bachelor of Science degrees because in some cases, you know, science courses are pretty articulated. You've got to take Chem 1 to take Chem 2. You've got to take Chem 2 to take OChem. If some amount of your degree is now around the art part of this, and that's less articulated, then I suppose that you could be taking things in parallel or over the summer. But it's not intended per se to be get through in 3 per degree. But I imagine it's a little bit easier. But I guess we got to have somebody that was focused on that.
I've been in a couple of the technology transformative classes and my bio 311 C&D classes. I was just wondering sort of what is the feedback on those has been positive, or if you're planning on expanding that to more, like, what the plans are for that in the next few years.
There's a lot of research to suggest that active learning techniques of any sort really do well in those in science classes. So I don't think there's this sort of top-down thou shalt do that we're trying to give to our faculty, but we try to promote these are some really best practices that other people have employed with success. And then to the extent that the faculty want to take that ball and run with it, we try to provide them support. So as you point out, biology, introbiology has a number of sections running a so-called flipped classroom. Some of you have heard that terminology before. Intro chemistry has been doing this. I teach an intro physics class like that. And I think that even some of the intro calculus classes are running this way. So it's definitely something that the faculty are trying. I think that there's been a lot of good feedback. I think now that there are enough faculty doing it, we as a faculty probably have in aggregate some really good experiences of what works and what doesn't. And one of the things we're working on this summer is workshops for the faculty of sharing, okay, so this I tried and it could be better, or this I tried and it was a slam dunk. I see this push for active learning as something that we really favor. It won't necessarily just be that, but it'll be active learning techniques. In some areas there's so-called COBOL, I think it stands for process-oriented guided inquiry-based learning. In other areas, there's a methodology called peer instruction. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones, but there's a number of these kinds of things. They all, are trying to aspire to the same thing, where instead of just us talking to you for the entire hour and a half and you writing down notes, that kind of content-based delivery has taken place elsewhere, and the classroom hour is really the challenge with some practical problems. And that's exactly the kind of skill you're supposed to have on those tests anyway, so now the classroom hour is devoted to that kind of critical thinking. So you'll see probably more faculty experimenting with it because it's nationwide, perceived as, well, research to be much more successful. Of course, it's harder for the students because you realize right away, wait, I didn't get that. That's what, well, but the good news is you don't realize right before the test, wait, I didn't get that.
Is there a timeline for when the ESA will be available? Because I went to talk to my advisor and I was just kind of itching, I might want to switch to that. And she kind of made it seem like as a sophomore, I might not be able to do that.
As a sophomore, I imagine, well, I should just say, this is a proposal, so I'll give you the timeline first of how and all the steps it has to go through. And I'll finish with, if it's successful, then I think as a sophomore you would be able to do it. We as a university have to approve these things through steps. So the departments approve it, the college approves it, the university-wide curriculum committee approves it, and all three of those steps, I'm happy to tell you, have happened. The next step is for faculty council to review this, and they have to vote up or down. And then should that happen, it goes on to UT System and the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. My hope would be that that would happen this summer, and then we would be able to tell you by the end of the summer that's an available degree plan for the 2014 catalog. So if you were to graduate under that catalog or have that catalog available to you to graduate under, you can start acting like that student today. But you have to hear from us at the end of the summer a big thumbs up that it was all approved.
Okay.
Current seniors, sorry, the current sophomores probably would work.
So this last semester I went to the career fair and I was really excited for it because of internship opportunities and whatnot. But I kept getting turned away because I was a biology major, not a computer science major. Is there anything that can be done about that? I feel like it should be called a computer science career fair.
So we are working on reaching out to biotech companies and companies that would hire biology students and also chemistry students. And we're also working with companies that do come to the career fair. We're looking for people with a computer science degree because many of them are actually open to hiring students who have the skills that they're looking for once they find out that many of our students, especially those who are majoring in mathematics and physics, do have many of those same skills and competencies. With respect to biology and chemistry, one thing that we're realizing is that a lot of companies actually only have a couple of positions that come open each year. And so they're very interested in hiring our majors. But for them to come to the career fair, it doesn't make a lot of sense because, they're not hiring 20 people or 30 people. And so we need to find ways to connect. So once we find those companies and identify them, have them let us know immediately when they have a position come available, but also find a way to communicate with you guys directly as quickly as possible, because right now you get so much email. I know that you don't have time to read it all, and we are looking for what would be the very best way to communicate with biology students who are graduating within a year, who are looking for a job. Is there a listserv, Twitter feed, we're just looking for what's the best way to get that message out to just that population so that everyone isn't getting inundated with all of our email.
Okay, because, I'm sorry, my roommate actually, she went with me and she codes, she coded since she was young, but she came here as a biochemistry major. Amazon turned her away because she didn't have the title of computer science.
Yeah. Now, Amazon, Google, some of those really large companies, they probably will turn everyone away that's not computer science major. I don't know that for sure. There may be some positions where they would look at them, but Amazon, Google, Facebook, they basically are recruiting to the very top of even the computer science class. But there are technology companies who will hire other people. And if you have questions about that, or your roommate has questions, or your friend has questions about that, then they can come visit with us in the Career Design Center, because there are some things we can sort of help you guys with to make you more attractive and show up more to people like that.
Great, thank you so much.
When these job listings were sent out through academic advisors, I know whenever I received something from my advisor, I take it more seriously and I read through it thoroughly.
If you guys think that would be the best way for it to happen, then I think we could arrange that, because last week I met with the biology advisors, and they said that they would be very glad to help in any way to sort of create that special email that, because they said, you know, we sort of really know when students are starting to think seriously about getting a job, they start coming to us. And so I think that they would be very interested in helping us with that.
Just a question about advising for your work. As a CS major, I've noticed that the CS department has grown in the last 2 years that I've been here, and a lot of students now have to go to group advising and then choose to go to like one-on-one advising. And for me, as a dean scholar, I get to go to an advisor, and it's necessary that I do. But my roommate, who's also a CS major, ended up not doing advising for this time just because there was no space for advising. It was really hard to get advising. The ratio between advisors and students being really low. So is the college doing anything to increase that ratio, to make it a little easier for students to make appointments and, you know, start earlier maybe the whole like process of advising? Also, it's really hard for students to decide what classes they want to take before the school schedule comes up, because a lot of classes clash. So if that can come up earlier, I don't know. There's so many things that can happen. Or is the college doing anything?
And are you talking about academic advisors?
Yes.
Okay, that's about my favorite.
Yeah, well, let me say favorite. So yes, the college is hiring a larger advisory staff. We are trying to grow the biology advising office and the computer science advising office and the first year advising office. So those are 3 areas of thrust right now. We recently hired in physics, math, and astronomy. Those 3 departments share a single advising office, and we recently expanded to human ecology. So we are there were more freshmen, and so it became yet more important to do it again. So we will do that. We're also working for future years. This can't be done for this coming year, but we're working to sort of equilibrate the schedule across the week, because approximately everyone wants to take a class between 11 and 2:30 on Tuesday, Thursday, and everyone wants to teach a class between 11 and 2:30 on Tuesday, Thursday. So that's making it difficult to be anything major right now, because senior year is all largely between 11 and 2:30 on Tuesday, Thursday. So we are working to, with each department, to identify what are the courses that overlap in a person's degree, and suggest that radical notions like 8 o'clock on Monday morning, or or even 10 o'clock on Monday morning. You know, there has to be Monday morning, something out there. So we want to make sure that things stop conflicting. That has grown over time.
Hi, 2 years ago before I came to UT, I graduated from a school called Physics, Academy of Math and Science. And if you're not familiar with it's like a program where you can go to UT and finish 2 years of college
pretty actively, and actually, Hickey was asking us this semester to be working on capacity in these kind of high volume courses that are currently closed. So that's something we've started to really pay attention to, because I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but there's a very high fraction of our courses that were over 85% full in the last fall semester. And that sounds really great and efficient. It's like something we should all be celebrating, except when something's 85% full, that's a sign that it's very difficult to switch in or out of something, right? So there are peak moments where it's 100% full, and there are even classes that are 100% full. So I'm more worried about this, for that cohort, although I see the specific. I'm worried about the fact that we have 150 classes that are full.
So the reality is that class should have some of those classes of their juniors and seniors to be able to take the sophomore courses. How many times do the students and you wanted anything else like do spell notes or those? Well, I'll write that down for about 2 months. This is me bringing it about how TAM students are flagged and advising to orientation and see if there's maybe an orientation sheet with 2 different grouping students, because that's not easy. Getting into the class is not easy, but making sure that advising the session, recognizing the situation of 2 students.
Another issue about the college rowing, I was very unexcited about UT, and the first time I visited UT was at VIP thing about 2 months before I got in, and the things I heard repeated every day was 4 years and change the world. So I was very prepared to graduate in 4 years and then change the world. Well, what I've noticed about the registration as a freshman or even sophomores is a lot of these kids get set back a semester or even a full year because they can't get into these prerequisites classes. And I just kind of want to know, because there's certain open division classes you can't take in the summer because it's not a big enough crowd of students that would take it. So when we're told to take classes in the summer, well, what if they're not offered? If we're told to take them during the winter session, or what if they're not offered? So for these students that want to get a job in 4 years and be productive, what happens when they can't because the classes are open too quickly?
I was going to say, we recognize that severe and significant problem, and we're going to be very actively working on ways to use our resources to make sure that there aren't problems. So I feel very strongly that no student should be held back because the courses aren't offered when they need to. It's a big problem here, but we recognize this is a problem, and it's been a problem for our employees to try to see. And Brad, you take it 8 o'clock, Monday class start.
I live around 9 to 8:30.
I will say that if summer courses are not answering your needs, like we have been trying to advertise summer as a viable option, and we've pushed for certain courses that we know about as bottleneck courses to be offered this summer. So, there are some things happening there, but if we're missing some, I would really like to know. And say, oh yeah, we need more automata theory. I don't know what it's going to be, but you name it, I will work on it because summer is a really great opportunity.
Along the same line, and now that there's been kind of a university push, we can try to do some more online coursework and we teaching the ability to program at scale effect the college specifically as far as current plans and how this course is being
So I think there's a lot of discussion about this coverage. I would tell you my personal bias is that MOOCs can be very effective used in combination with person-to-person learning also. I don't see MOOCs replacing, a huge chunk of what we're doing now, but they may allow us to be more efficient. They may alleviate some of the problems we're having, or help us to alleviate some of the problems that we're having with course bottlenecks now. I see it as a challenge and very advanced that will help us teach and learn even better. But I don't see them kind of replacing types of classes that we have now.
I'm going to take off Associate Dean hat, put it right here, and speak as Professor hat. All right. One of the things that's really exciting to me about technology is exactly at odds with what I think some of the goals of MOOCs are. Technology has been really great because it allows me to interact with students more, right? Instead of wasting whole bunches of time to write a Schroeder equation and making mistakes literally every single class, because, you know, I just ain't that good in reciting, you know, a textbook out loud. I get to do that online and then spend all my hour and a half with students telling them how to solve this problem better, or getting them to talk to each other, or actually getting to know everyone's name, or, you know, just all manner of things that I was, as a faculty member, I'm super excited about. So the technology part, I think it's great. I think it's wonderful that we're investing in all those resources, but I don't ever think of it as a replacement for what I do. Because frankly, the funnest part about my job is getting to know everyone and helping you become better critical thinkers. How would I give that up? Okay, take my phone.
So another question I have is, there are some really awesome professors that come to UT, but the problem is they've never taught before. They have TA, but they're awesome people, and they're really good at their research, and they're really good for getting hired to do research. But the first semester they teach, there's normally just problems. Not that they don't know the material or that they don't know how to teach it, but maybe the exams are too hard, they don't know how to scale their class because they've never done this before. Is there a process that they go through, or do they just get assigned a course and teach it?
Every year we have a new faculty workshop for these folks, and Associate Dean Shelley Payne, who oversees faculty affairs, has been instituting an idea of a faculty teaching mentor for each of our new faculty, and I think that's been a really good move. We've seen, I think, a lot of really great interactions amongst our faculty. You know, these are all creative people. They want to do the right thing and to stay. So I think providing them that kind of mentorship only increases their odds.
There's also a lot more opportunities when folks are graduate students and postdocs for them to gain more experience in teaching when they're training than they're used to be too. So I think what we're seeing with the junior faculty in the last few years is they come in with somewhat more experience, and I think that trend is going to increase too. Lots, or not lots, but some universities have special programs, and all of those docs learn how to develop the course and things like that. So there's lots of things kind of happening because this is an issue kind of nationwide as to how do we really prepare our fantastic future faculty to get in.
What if we encourage the postdocs that we're receiving to participate in FRI? That way it resolves the issue and the capacity issue. Because the postdoc I work with, he's never worked with an undergrad before, so it's a little tricky, but it hurts.
You know, I think one of the things that we talk about in FRI is the research educator position as training for particularly smaller large programs where you have to have a research group and you have to teach, have a heading teaching. And so those folks who are have moved on to faculty positions from our programs have that capacity to run research groups and undergraduates and teach. But there are lots of things with moving into college to talk about tier one research faculty and their incredible teaching, their incredible research vision, and how you make sure that that kind of innovation and creativity, such as that, comes out of your classes.
I was wondering for classes that are spring only or fall only, is there a better way to indicate that they're only offered one semester on, you know, like degree checklist plans and like course schedules? Because I feel like that's a big problem for students that maybe just got into a major and haven't heard that it's only offered one semester versus both years when you're planning.
I'd say that's a really good suggestion. So yeah, let me just take that as that's a really good idea to do that.
Also on the note, like not having spring and fall, but also like for our degree plans, we would be a little easier, not necessarily for course schedule, but to know what courses will be offered when, like, because you don't know if the teachers aren't teaching it. And so sometimes like you'll have, if you need a tax on class, and you have like 20 options on your degree plan because there's only 2 actually offered, and there's the worst 2 options, and you don't want to. And so, but maybe like, maybe like a year from now, then
scheduled a full year in advance. That allows, it might be surprising to you, it's hard for us right now to tell you what's going to be offered in spring of 2014. It shouldn't be that way, but it is that way. And so what we'd like to be able to do is tell you a full year's courses, not only fall, but at least, if not times and dates, here's the list of courses going to be offered in spring 2014. We hope you're planning. And you can make the decision, but do I do this in the fall of 13? It's not my favorite choice. Or do I wait for fall? Let's bring it to 2014.
That's the worst possible like planning. Is like I want to take it in spring, but the option I want it or not viable option. So I'm pushing it back. And I can take another semester. Is like how long should I wait? Because what if that is the only course going to be offered all these years?
Could you shed some light on the rationale behind these really time-intensive labs like biolab, chem lab, only being 42 credit hours?
Well, the rationale is that contact hours in lab don't have the same ratio of credits per hour as lecture classes do, with the idea that there's less assigned work outside of class, or for every contact hour in lab. There's a fair amount of time spent doing it. That is the rationale. So now it's up to us to make sure that that's uniformly true. Right?
So, in my situation, I have to take a bunch of labs and but because they're labs, they're very few hours, and so that doesn't even make me full time. So on top of these, intensive labs where I do have a lot of work outside of lab, the majority of my time is spent writing lab reports, I have to take additional courses that I don't need at all on top of that.
To be full time.
To be full, just to be full time. So what do you do in this situation? Even to be part time, I need to take classes.
Right, in the ideal world, again, we've talked about the many things that make it not the ideal world. You're taking not all of those in one semester, but I understand that there's constraints that make that happen. So, in the ideal world, you have a couple lecture classes and a lab, so that you're taking some of these larger credit-bearing courses and then not 3 labs at one time, but 1 or 2.
What are you taking? So in fall, if I were to graduate in spring, I would be taking Pekin Lab 2, analytical chemistry, and geology lab 1. And that's environmental. Pekin Lab is 1 hour, geology is 2, analytical is a class, and a lab is 4.
That sounds familiar.
So I took BC Calc in high school and I got credit, but I decided to go ahead and take 408C. But I know people who wanted to take 408D immediately, but I have a friend who's particularly annoyed by this. But when he was trying to claim credit, he could only do the option where it was like this 3-sequence course and not the 2-sequence course. So he had to pay like an extra $80 in order to claim the credit that he wanted, because he couldn't just claim 408C. He had to claim like K or L or whatever. I'm not sure, but is there a way to give the option to just like save money potentially, like you already pay like $60 for applications or such and such, to save money to provide an option for just claiming credit for 408C? I don't know if this is direct.
So practically, he was not able to, so maybe he can contact you on that.
This is going to give maybe 2 or 3 minutes left, so maybe we'll like to
I'm not saying that I have to take 2 and I just have 2 credits instead.
Okay. Looks like that's all we have. I just want to thank our deans and directors for coming out tonight. Thank you all for coming out. We all appreciate your time.